Yeah. And yeah, exactly.
That's right.
You know, in moderation. Go ahead.
Don't feel it.
Verse 28. And the children of Israel went away, and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne until the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle.
That's right.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh as ye have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, We be all dead men.
Okay.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 28. And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they.
All right. So that's what they did. So we're going to commemorate that right now. We're going to eat the bitter herbs and lamb and unleavened bread. Just keep in mind, we're not eating the Passover. We're commemorating it. Let's put the lamb. That's what it represents. Go ahead.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor salt it at all with water, but roast with fire, its head with its legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning shall burn with fire. And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover.
The bitterness, the bondage that we had to serve, that's what the bitter herb stands for. The Passover is the sacrifice that was made, and the blood being put on the doors, so the Most High would pass over us and kill the Egyptians instead. The unleavened bread represents the haste that we had to, how we had to lead Egypt, quickness. It also represents without sin. We can go over that later, if there's any questions, but that's what it is. So we're going to eat it in haste right quick.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 34.
Yep.
And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment.
That's kind of hard to do nowadays. It's hard for us to get along.
I don't know though. I can't say when the Most High put favor on you though, you'll be surprised.
Oh yeah. When the time comes, yeah. All right, read on.
Verse 36. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them.
Did you see that? Just what Almi mentioned. The Most High gave us favor or honor in sight of the Egyptians. Right now, we don't have that. It can be brought about, and especially how we conduct ourselves. That can gain us honor. I didn't say yes, sir, boss, and all that. I'm talking about conducting ourselves as an upright person. Go ahead.
Right, just pretty much return back unto Him.
Right.
That's where the favor gonna come.
Yeah.
Because right now we're under the curses.
Yep. Go ahead.
Verse 36. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside children, in a mixed multitude. And the mixed multitude went up also with them.
So you can see, like I mentioned earlier, there were others that were mixed multitude. It means mongrel, mixed people. There are people marrying into the family of Israel. You had strangers, and this chapter's gonna cover that. You had other people from other nations sojourning with Israel, obviously the only way for them to make it, they kept the Passover too. They put the blood up there on the doorpost and did what they had to do because they believed in the Most High. All right, and these last days it's gonna be the same way. Go ahead.
And flocks and herds, even very much cattle. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt. For it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry.
All right, see, that's one thing right there, like how we had mentioned about the unleavened bread, what everything means, is we were thrust out of Egypt, so we did it with a quickness, and so we didn't have time to knead the dough until it was leavened. You know, some people think that nowadays when we leaven bread, we just add yeast, but actually natural yeast is in the air, and back then they would knead the dough, just keep kneading it, and then it would become leavened. All right, and that's just a little tidbit. Go ahead.
Neither had they prepared for themselves any victual. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the host of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh, for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed, all the children of Israel in their generations.
That's right, in their generations. Always. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof.
That's right. A stranger can't eat of the Passover. He's going to tell you why, and he's going to tell you how they are able to eat of it. Go ahead.
But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof.
You know what circumcision represents, right? Being under the covenant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, when someone has a slave, he circumcises because he's part of his family.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the way that, like these radical lunatic bootleg Israelites teach, just to hate everybody. We're gonna have servants and we're gonna be beating them. That's not how we did slaves. And now people did get beatings when you break the law, Israel or stranger.
That's correct.
You know, but the thing is, when we had a servant, they belonged to our household, and we would circumcise their males. There's even situations where certain men didn't have a male heir, and his servant was the next in line, and he'd have to leave everything to him. Mm-hmm. And one man, he gave him his daughter as a wife because he didn't have any sons.
That is correct.
All right, so being a servant, that's not a bad thing. We treated servants a certain way, and it was through the laws of the Most High. We treat them with love. Go ahead.
A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised.
Okay, so when a stranger, this guy from another nation, you might be from China somewhere, he starts hanging out with Israel, and then he starts learning, and he said, you know what, I want to serve the Most High, and I want to keep the Passover too. Well, this is what you got to do. Read that again.
Verse 48. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Right, he become an Israelite. All right, and it says not just him, but all his males. If a man comes and he has 5 sons in his family, he might even have some servants in his household, and he wants to convert. Not just him, he gets circumcised, and all his males, all his sons, his servants, they all convert too, because they're in his household. Go ahead.
One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
Right, we had armies. Moshe had his organized. All right, and he was a military wizard, so to speak. But the main point here is that we came out the self same day. I'm on this kick because there's other people saying that recently been saying that the Passover should be. They actually kept the Passover last night, like I mentioned, and they're pushing that real tough. But he said the self same day, meaning on the 14th of Abib, towards the evening, we sacrifice the Passover. That night at midnight is when which was the 15th of Abib, which began the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That night, all the firstborn in Israel died. I mean, in Egypt, died. That same night, because Pharaoh rose up, like we read, and told him, look, get out. It's time for y'all to leave. So that self-same day, in the 15th, is when we all left. From the night we ate that Passover, that's when we left. The night we ate it. All right? We didn't eat the Passover, wait around the next day in the afternoon, relax, kick back, have a nap, and then at night leave. That's ridiculous. But
when did we eat the Passover?
We ate it on the 15th.
At what, twilight?
No. That's when it was between the two evenings. The word is Bayan Arabim. Arab is evening. In the Hebrew, that word where it says at evening, it means between the two evenings. And so that was it. It wasn't on the 13th at night. It was late afternoon when the Passover lambs were sacrificed. That thing takes a long time to cook. We had people who were pushing this real tough. They actually killed the lamb last night. And that thing was cooking. It was like already late. And it was still cooking. But it says you're supposed to sacrifice them between the two evenings or late in the afternoon. Even the English word afternoon, you look it up. Or the English word evening. If you look that up, one of the definitions means afternoon. And so that's where a lot of people are mistaken because they think you're supposed to cook it on the 14th, meaning when the 14th comes in, which would have been last night. And then they think that we sat around all day and then waited and then left on the 15th at nighttime. But we just read that right after we ate the Passover, 12 midnight, those people died. The Egyptians, a lot of their firstborn died. Then we were told to get out while it was still night. And so that's how it went down. And it's real simple. Even the Jewish people know that. Because it's real simple. A person just has to read the book. But you know what? I'll tell you where that confusion came in. Because of Christianity, they teach that Last Supper, they teach that was the Passover meal. Yeah. Even though it doesn't say that in there. I'll bring out two quick scriptures. Go to Yochanan, see, John 18. I get mine from the law. But like I said, Christianity, they up in the so-called New Testament and don't know what time it is. So they want to come up with these doctrines because they up in there, but they're not studying Torah. And if you study Torah, then a person will understand how to interpret or make sense out of the so-called New Testament.